Hi, I'm Mike Klemick, and today we're going to be talking about the challenge of hiring employees. And by the end of this video, you're going to have a pretty good roadmap on how to do that. Hey, if this is your first time here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss anything. So hiring employees for a franchise business is the same as hiring for any business. You first have to let everyone know that you have an open position, and probably the cheapest way to go about that is social media. Spread it out to your contacts that you've got a position available. Tell them what position it is, what the hours are, and what the job pays. I can promise you, if you don't tell them what it pays, you're going to get a handful of people immediately that say, geez, how much does it pay? So once they know what it pays and you get contacts back, you're going to know that you've got some fish on the line. Now, it's nice to be able to advertise on social media for free, but you have to go where the applicants are, and those are places like Indeed and Monster, and there's a handful of them out there. I've had pretty good luck with Indeed, but it's expensive. I mean, it's going to cost you a couple $100 if you've got a competitive job title. So when you're putting an ad on Indeed, for example, you want to be really specific about what you're looking for. If you put down, hey, I need 5 years of plumbing experience, then you should only get those people, but you're still going to get a wave of applicants that just don't read. It's unbelievable to me. And if you're really generic, you're going to get every high school kid in America looking for a job. So be really specific on what you're looking for. And you may think, geez, nobody's reading this. They're reading it. They're just not qualified for your job. So I direct people to send me their resume, and it's those resumes that really allow you to weed through the junk. And a lot of applicants will simply shoot themselves in the foot. It's almost entertaining. I hate to say that, but you're going to want to look for things on resumes that just are not consistent with what you're looking for. Gaps in employment, generally not a good thing. If somebody's got a gap in employment, were they fired? Were they in jail? Who knows? But I want people that do not have gaps in employment, people that are desirable, that move from one job to another for good reasons. You'll see applicants that will try to hide their gaps in employment by simply omitting the month of the year that they started or ended their employment. So for example, somebody will say, well, yeah, I worked at ABC company from 2019 to 2020, and then I worked for XYZ company 2020 to current. Well, they may have been employed for a month or two at these places, and they're just hiding a lot of gaps with that. So be aware of that. During the first couple of days of an online ad that I run, I'll get probably 30 different resumes. Probably 30 to 50, depending on the state of the economy. And some of these just they just can't read. They're not looking at what I'm asking for, and those can easily be dispatched. A lot of them will put a bunch of fluff in their resumes that have absolutely nothing to do with, for example, if I'm looking for a plumber, they've been a barista at Starbucks for a long time, and it has nothing to do with plumbing. Once you have a handful of resumes that you like, it's time to call the applicants and schedule a time for them to come in and fill out the actual application and do an interview. And I have them do that at the same time. I want them to come in, and the application is like 3 pages long, ours is anyway, and it asks a lot of questions that they're trying to hide. And so many of them will say, well, see my resume, all my information's on there. Well, no, I want to know why you left this job, what you're being paid at this previous job, to know that your history shows that you've been increasing not only your responsibility of previous jobs, but also your income. That's a really good sign. And along with no gaps in employment, this is somebody we are going to be interested in. So when you call a resume to come in for a job interview, it's probably going to go to voicemail. That's just the way things are these days, right? If their voicemail is completely full and you can't leave a message, that's a real bad sign there. Maybe they're running from creditors or from a previous employer, who knows, but that's not a good sign. I would try again later, but beyond that, go to the next one and count your blessings. So once you get an applicant on the phone, you want to screen them to save yourself a bunch of time, because when somebody comes in and fills out an application and does a job interview, those are valuable hours out of your day. You want to minimize that so that you're interviewing just really quality people. And so I tend to do just a mini interview over the phone to see if this is somebody I actually want to call to come in to do a full interview and actually fill out our written application. And so just think of some real light questions. It's more of a conversation at this point, and just take note to the things that are important to you. For example, if this person is a customer service rep, can they speak intelligently and kind of think on their feet? That's an important skill to have. There's just a lot of small nuances that you'll be able to pick up once you do this a couple of times that will signal you to either move forward with this person or call the phone call short. So it doesn't matter if you're working from home or working from an office. That applicant is going to be judged before he or she ever speaks a single word. Are they 10 minutes early, or were they 5 minutes late without a phone call? If they're 5 minutes late, I typically don't even interview them. But if they're going to be late and they call ahead of time and say, geez, I'm sorry, I'm stuck in traffic, well, that's generally a good thing. At least they're conscientious enough to make a phone call. Our office staff too will see applicants come in and decide if they want to work with them or not. And it's just kind of funny listening to them banter after the person has left on what their opinions and observations of them are. I've had people come in caps that are backwards, flip-flops and shorts. It's just unbelievable. And remember, when an applicant comes in for an interview, this is the best they will ever look. And if they have that little regard for the job, I mean, that's just shooting themselves in the foot. There's no way I would hire somebody like that. Also, I would never email an application to somebody. We want the applicant to fill out the application in front of us, and for the sad reason that we want to know that they can read and write English. I've had people that have brought in friends with them to an interview, and you can hear them whispering about what to fill out and how to write something. And it's like, well, you're going to be dealing with customers that speak predominantly English. Now, at the beginning of the interview, I generally will get the application and go through it page by page and ask any questions of the applicant that maybe I need clarification on or that just doesn't make sense. Why was there a gap of employment from this month to 6 months later? What happened there? And there most of the time there is an explanation for that, but sometimes there isn't. So these are things you want to find out. As part of our application, we've got a little 10-question quiz that separates people that are bluffing from people that really know what they're doing on our particular job. So you might develop something that is similar to that for whatever position that you're hiring for. For our craftsman position, there's just 10 basic questions that any handyman, plumber guy should know easily. I mean, not even a question about it. And so when somebody's filling this out and 4 of them are blank, that's a pretty good indication that they may not be the right person for the job. So when you're asking the applicant questions about whatever, and there's a lot of questions you can ask them. I'm not going to give you the ones that I ask, not all of them. I'll give you one in a minute, but you want to do it in such a way that it's professional, completely legal, and you want to make it, as odd as this sounds, just a little uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is instead of being animated, you want to ask a question and go completely stone-faced, right? And so when the applicant is done speaking, you're going to want to create just somewhat of an awkward silence, almost like you want to let them know that they're not done answering. Because if you ask them a question and you're nodding, and they're going to get the idea that, okay, so whatever I'm saying is good and I'll go ahead and stop now. We don't want them to stop. We want them to continue. And so once they're done speaking, stare at them for a couple of seconds and you would be amazed at what people will blurt out. I mean, talk about shooting themselves in the foot. If I was the applicant, I would just stare back, of course, but it's an unusual situation that you're probably shaking your heads listening to this, but it really does work, even though it's a little bit awkward. So I usually use a group of about 30 different interview questions, which I rotate, and I don't ask all 30. I may ask, 5 to 10, depending on how interested I am in the person. But one of the ones I like to ask is, if I called your most recent supervisor, what would he or she tell me are your 2 weakest areas? Now, the first one they've already practiced. They're going to spit that out immediately. But the second item, that's going to be the one that I'm going to listen most closely to, because that's the one they probably haven't practiced, and it may be the truthful answer. After they've answered that question, you might ask them for an example, because a lot of applicants will fluff up their answers like, well, my previous employer said that I was just too good. I worked too hard. I worked too many hours. Well, can you give me an example of that? Yeah, I worked 80 hours my last paycheck. Well, wow, so maybe this person wasn't able to complete the work in the normal amount of time and was very slow. I don't know, but these are all questions that might tip you off as to whether this person is bluffing or not. So the interview should last maybe 20 minutes or so. It depends how the flow of the whole conversation is going. And I generally like to end it by asking if they have any questions for me. And if they say no, well, I don't like to hear that generally. I like to hear that they do have questions, and it shows that, there's an interest there in either the job or the company. So once the interview is over, if you're interested in them, you need to check their work references. Be aware that the references they put down as their former boss may be a friend in all actuality. So when they give you a cell phone of somebody, you may want to try calling the main number of the company and asking for the person that they listed as their former boss. You'll get the real person rather than somebody waiting for a phone call from the person that just interviewed them. In this day and age, you're probably just going to get dates of employment if you get that at all, but it's always good to ask if they would rehire this person or not. That's a real good indication. Once all the references check out and you want to hire this person, go ahead and make an offer of employment. Where I am not allowed to complete a background check until after I've hired them, but I would highly recommend doing a background check that includes criminal history, social security number verification, workers' comp claims, and even credit if they're handling money. I hope this video helped you out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.